Good evening, good morning.
Good afternoon, good day. It is an episode of Hobby Night School.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
Day
know.
School?
It's go.
Full disclosure, we are in the sports book at the Aria, and there is sports everywhere. So Jeremy keeps being distracted, and there are drunk people walking around.
Shiny thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's 6 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. We are still on Eastern Time, so our body clocks are not jiving very well with...
I've been up at 5 every day.
We are getting up while people are still up from the night before, and...
It's fun to watch them.
It's not bad. We were young once, and I'm like, ooh, was that us?
So I watched someone fall on the escalator yesterday.
That was definitely Courtney.
It's rough.
That was definitely Courtney.
So...
Courtney, happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. It's my birthday. So today is day 3 of the Mint Collective, and we just wanted to do a quick short video to give you like a little inside scoop of what we've been doing and what's been going on. I'm sure you've seen tons of content, but you know, I wanted to give our perspective because we tend to be just a little bit more like, this is what it is.
Yeah. So this is first and foremost, this event has a distinctly different vibe and feel compared to anything else I've ever been to that's been hobby related. It seems much more sophisticated, much more elegant, much cleaner, nicer.
Expensive.
It's a completely different vibe. It's not what you would expect if you've only ever experienced, your VFW shows or like even the National. It looks bigger.
The production value.
Correct. So, as Courtney said, Thursday was the kickoff, was day 1 of the Mint Collective, and that was essentially the who's who of the hobby getting together, live music. They had table games. There was box breaking going on. They did what they called a Mint Cast, but it was essentially like a fancy Zoom with, they were talking with Peyton Manning and Michael Rubin while they were breaking wax. People were having drinks, saying hi, catching up with old friends, industry chatter. So it was a 3-hour mixer in a very elegant, nice room. And so you had people that were dressed super nice. Then you had the card bros with the Gucci bags across their chest. You had it was all walks of life.
Very huge mix of people.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And it's like one of those things that, again, you just pause for a minute and you're like, wow, we're all here doing this because of
sports cards and trading
cardboard.
Cards. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was really well done. I won 75 hands of blackjack. That meant nothing because they were not for money, but I would have walked away with like $1,000. I was $1,000 up on free chips. When I play regular blackjack, I'm like $1,000 down though. So
yeah, would have been a lot cooler if you brought home some money.
It would have been so much cooler.
A lot of squeeze for not much juice there on that one. Yeah, so the kickoff party was really cool. So, and then after each day, there are so many like smaller parties that are breaking out. And so I want to just, point out prior to the show starting, there was I don't know if it was official or unofficial, but there was a clubhouse event, kind of led by Sports Card Stallion, shout out to Alex, that took place
really
earlier.
Well done.
So I just want to be mindful that there's probably several smaller parties or trade nights that maybe we're not going to talk about, but we'll do a deep dive into when we get back. But this is just like high level for the folks who are experiencing FOMO, kind of get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah. So after the founders event, obviously, there were after parties from that, but I'm old and I was tired and we were like still jet lagged. So we went home, went to bed, and we got up bright and early Friday morning to go to the panels and the workshops on day 2, which is really well done because he's got the schedule. The first year they did this, they did the panels during the marketplace, the marketplace is what they call their show. And people didn't like that. The show space was smaller, they've increased the size of it, and they pulled the panels out. So those were 2 things that I think were like a little bit of a critique from last year that they were mindful of, and they have changed. So Friday was all panels, all workshop, all industry knowledge, all networking, everything Friday.
So I'm going to just take a minute and just go through over like some of what was available. So they had a panel that was bringing trading cards mainstream, Monopoly Prism trading card game, the NBA edition. Welcome to Bullpen and Friends LCS. Owners talk about the importance of professional connections and cards, growing the trading card market, live podcast, selling on eBay, upcoming news from Fanatics, CSG grading school, eBay, making money with your vault.
They had a couple different eBay from like different levels, like beginner to like advanced eBay panels. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The new generation of collectors, the rise of peripheral collectibles, sneak peek at exciting things coming up from Topps and Panini. Those are two separate panels. Scaling for success, advertising, card shop of the future, donating collectibles, institutional capital. Got to turn it over. So many damn things. So you kind of get an idea. There's, and with each one of those things I said, there was probably a paragraph or two that went into great detail of what you could expect. And so those were running nonstop from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So within the venue, there was like the main room where the marketplace is, and you could see everybody set up. It's the booths all look beautiful. They look like something that you would see at a true big industry event where everything's uniform, it's carpeted, it's clean. The main lobby they had food and drink. You know, there was places where you could sit down, like nice, not like, you know, skeezy or crap. And then there was a bunch of conference rooms throughout where these events were taking place. And so, you know, one thing for Court and I is, you know, there were several that we wanted to attend. And so we had to be very diligent in what we were doing, which was kind of, for us, it was, I felt like maybe I was rude a little bit, and I didn't mean to be, because I'm finished with one. And as you're walking through the hall, people want to, you know, they want to give you hugs. They want to take pictures. They want, you know, they wanted my autograph. And so it was like, you know, come on, I got to get over. I got to go see the folks at Fanatics.
Yes. So it was hard to pick, and you know, a lot of the panels would overlap each other because there's only so much time, and you can't have like one after the other, because then you would have everyone that came all, and these rooms were standing room only for the most part. So it was really hard to, you know, you couldn't have like one after the other, because it would just be like you'd be in like an arena size room where everybody's talking. So it was, I understand why they did it. It was kind of a bummer because we missed a couple that we really wanted to see, just because you had to make the choice. Which one do you want to go to?
By 2:00, me and Court were split up, and we were attending separate events to try to, you know, get to as many as possible. And then afterwards, when we broke to go get coffee, we were just kind of like, okay, this is what I learned. This is what I learned. So no matter how you operate in the hobby, there was something there for you. So I was at one where I was like, you know, sitting next to Drake's PC, shout out Drake, and he was like legitimately curious about wrestling cards and autographs. And so he was asking Panini questions about, from a collector's perspective, about that. And they were, you know, gracious with their time answering questions. People were asking stuff about redemptions. Courtney and I were like, how the hell do we get allocation?
Yeah.
Give me some wax, man.
Yeah.
Hook it up. And so it was a really, really well done, cool event. I've never experienced anything like it. I'm grateful that I got to be a part of it. I wish it was like, you know, maybe stretched out over a couple days or maybe a little space in between where I was able to attend everything. But again, logistically, I completely understand. From last night, from 7 to 10 p.m. was the marketplace kickoff or preview, where if you had the VIP badge or the Reckless badge, you were able to get in and, you know, have first dibs on walking the show. There was people in line waiting to drop off cards for submission, you know, so that's kind of how last night concluded from the Mint perspective.
I just want to back it up a little bit after the panels and before the show.
Oh yeah, real quick, there was one I wanted to do. And all the rooms had sitting. They were so packed that they would turn into standing room only, but they were set up with like couches and chairs and stuff like that.
They were set up. I felt like the setups were nice. You'd have like where you could sit and face it, and then the lounge areas. So it was a nice vibe. The Leighton one with Cherry Collectibles was cool because that one felt more like a town hall meeting where everybody was talking. It was neat. There would like every panel had a different vibe, and we'll go into those more in detail when we get home and we do our recap.
Yeah, I guess I dropped the ball on that. We were gonna just identify real quick the ones that we went to. If you want to start.
Yeah. So the first one we went to was Bullpen and Friends, and that was, obviously Bullpen LA and several other LCSs sort of talking about their experience in security, safety, and what they do to protect their shops.
Yeah, and I would imagine if you had any interest in ever having a brick and mortar, or you're curious about that space, that to me, the Bullpen and Friends ones were, I thought, were absolutely freaking incredible.
It was very well done. They were very open. They were really friendly. After the event, we got to hang out with Aaron from A&N and just like pick his brain further. So it was really cool. It, like, the connections that we made at this event that have helped us even after the panels, you know, have that like ability to be like, oh, hey, I saw you at the panel. I wanted to ask you about this thing that you said. And it makes the people on the panels probably more receptive because you have like a little idea of what they're about too.
Yeah, and I think for me, who doesn't want to come up to complete strangers and strike up a conversation, Courtney's much better at that than I did. That group in particular, all those different people from all the different card shops, we were overwhelmingly, hey, come tap on us, lean on us. We're here to support. We want to hear that. We want the industry to grow. We want to support you. Learn from our mistakes, which is awesome. So as you're talking through, they're able to, you know, hey, this is good, or you're already 10 steps ahead of us here. And so if you ever had interest, or in the future you have interest of, you know, having a hobby shop or something like that, finding this, because I'm sure it was recorded, finding these videos and watching them when they come out in the future and then coming next year would be a recommendation of mine.
I agree. So that was the first one we went to.
So the next one we went to was the Fanatics Innovation in the Hobby. And so you had a Topps representative talking about, obviously, the MLB debut patch was the buzz, but then they were talking about retro refractors, how they're taking the bases from, you know, players' first hits, taking the mound from pitchers' first strikeouts for upcoming cards. And so hearing them talk about how they want to innovate the follow back on social media for kids.
Yeah, and what product was that where those cards are in? Was that in the Inception?
What?
The follow back thing?
No, they're not out yet.
Oh, they're not out. So they're going to put cards in to product basically where it's a redemption, but the redemption is you can get like Mike Trout to follow you on social media. So that is super cool. What a flex, you know, if you're a 12-year-old and you're like, oh, you know who follows me? Mike Trout.
Yeah. So it was really cool. And then, you know, they were asking people, like, from the MLB debut patch, would you want to only see that in a high-end product, or would you want to see that in something like Update or Flagship? And people were raising their hands, and you know, the guy who was talking was very adamant that they care about what the collector or the end user wants. And so just having that dialogue, being able to ask questions, understanding that the horsepower and the money behind Topps that Fanatics is providing is going to significantly make this space a lot cooler and a lot more fun moving forward.
And like, not only the money, but the connections between the actual players and, you know, you wouldn't have seen a debut patch if it wasn't for Fanatics being part of that, right? They make the jerseys, or they're in charge of the jerseys.
Yeah. So the next one that we hit up was the Institutional Capital Investment in Collectibles. Ezra Levine from Collectible was the moderator on that and did a really good job. And so if you're like curious about where the hobby's going, this one spoke to me because I wanted to understand, like, is Fanatics really going to 10x this thing? Is the hobby a place where maybe potentially you can have a business? You know, because if the money's not going to follow, or there's not a clear vision of what's going to be in the future, then maybe a lot of what we're hearing is pie in the sky. And so to listen in on, you know, high level conversations about the money that's coming and the way people look at cards and what's safe and what's not was incredibly fascinating. These people, how do I say this? You know, when they're talking about like the way they monitor their portfolios of cards, and Patrick Mahomes is a speculative play, kind of shows the way they look at stuff. Like, you know, we're flipping Justin Fields cards. Like, that wouldn't even be on their radar if Patrick Mahomes is still speculative. So it was just like, it was kind of cool. It's just fascinating to understand and, you know, see the hobby through the lens of somebody else. And I understand that's probably not everybody's cup of tea, But for us, it was cool that there was a workshop that we could go and listen in and ask questions.
I feel like a lot of times you go to things and people are talking about the same things and they say things the way that you think about them, or it's exactly the way, you know, that you thought that they would say it. And that particular one made me think about the way that I collect and just the hobby in general in a totally different viewpoint. So that one I felt was like, that one was super well done.
Shout out to my arm because it's on fire and I've got like tingly going through everywhere holding this damn thing.
So if it gets shaky, that's why, because we decided to do this like on the fly and we don't have a stand or anything.
Yeah, and so at that point, this is where we really had to break up because there was a lot going on that we wanted to see. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to it everywhere. So at that point, I broke off and I went to the Panini Q&A, which was really awesome. I got to sit down and listen to the heads of each department talk about, you know, their respective brand lines. And, you know, a quick story, it was the guy who was responsible for Spectra was talking about when Spectra was just deemed like kind of like a meh product. And based on a conversation he had in passing somewhere in like Wisconsin or Iowa, he made those adjustments based on a conversation with just an average collector. And Spectra evolved into what it is now. And so I thought that was awesome. A couple of things that I will share with you is they expect by end of Q4 for basketball and football to be back online and being dropped when when it shouldn't be so far behind. And then the other thing that was noteworthy is as the Panini brand grew, they were not scaling the like HR and the customer support with the other parts of the business, and so they've made a big effort to help get that on par. So, you know, when we all get frustrated about their lack of responsiveness and or, you know, redemptions, they're working diligently to do that. And so these guys that were chatting weren't really responsible for that, but they did say, you know, they within them trying to innovate, coming up with like the white sparkle packs and some of the other things they've come up with to help alleviate some of those smaller redemptions and to try to make, you know, us, the collector, whole.
Yeah. So when he was at that's when I went to the Leighton and Cherry Collectibles about breaking in your brick and mortar. And I thought that was so cool because Leighton is a huge breaker, Cherry Collectibles is a huge breaker, and they both kind of go about how they operate.
Who's Cherry Collectibles?
I don't know. He's so cute. His name's Grayson, and he's just the best person ever.
Shout out Grayson. Once again, I'm sorry about Court.
So, anyway, they look at it in totally different ways, the way that they operate within their own businesses. So it was really cool to watch them kind of break down their individual ideas about how to separate yourself if you're a breaker who's wanting to like hire out people to break for you, and like how hard that was for both sets of them to do. And it didn't even occur to me, like you see these big breakers with like multiple people breaking on their platform or through their brand or whatever, and you just think, oh, they're doing that because they're so big they have to. Both of them said it was so hard for them to relinquish that like power and give it to other people. So that was cool. That was the one that I went to. It was super well done. It was a lot of fun. Sarah and Grayson killed it.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Court, but all of these it didn't feel like you come in, you sit down, you're quiet, and then you only speak when you're spoken to.
I didn't go to one where they didn't have people talking.
It was incredibly casual and in the environment where you felt comfortable, you felt like you could ask questions, you felt like you were truly part of a community where everybody's there to like, you know, gather some information or learn about something. There's laughs being had. It was, and that was, in my experience, every workshop that I went to, that was very, very much the same. So the last one I went to for the day was the Hobby Unplugged, a candid interview of the past, the present, and the future of card shops in the community. And, you know, Mitch from Bullpen LA was being interviewed, and, you know, was very, very candid about the past, the present, and the future. And so I found that to be completely fascinating, because sometimes you go on social media and it's either the world is ending and we're all going to die, or it's everything sunshines and rainbows. It's not much of in between. This was just a very authentic and sincere conversation through, you know, his lens and what he sees. And I just found it to be again, the stories that he shared were awesome. Those are the kind of stuff us collectors like to hear, and just an outlook and some of the things he's seen. I found it to be incredible.
That one I was like, see, it was so hard because I was bummed. I really wanted to go to that one, but I went to the card ladder one, and it was like Christina put it together. She put the panel together from Card Ladder Christina's PC, and she had someone from CSG.
It was called Collectors to Corporate Hobbyists Working in the Industry.
Yes. So this one was basically like, hey, you like to collect cards. This is how you can get a job in the space and what the jobs look like. And they were really like, you might not get to start out like developing sets with Upper Deck or Panini or Topps, but you could, we have people that started as a custodian who are now product managers. And if that's a space that you're looking to be in and you have a skill set, they're hiring within these companies. And so it was like, they had someone from CSG.
Card Ladder, CSG, Topps, PSA, Panini, Upper Deck.
Yes. And I felt like it was really well done. And when we were talking about them wanting you to ask questions, wanting you to participate, they were handing out packs of Panini football, what was it, like No Huddle, to get people to ask questions. So they wanted participation. It felt very authentic. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the candidness. It was interesting seeing, like, you had someone from PSA and someone from SGC up there. You had someone from Panini and Topps, and the way that they would play off each other, and the things that they were talking about what they admired from the other companies, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, very much cool, man. It's okay for people to get along. Just because you might compete once in a while doesn't mean we can't all get along and operate in the same space. So at that point, there was one other panel for the day. It was Josh Luber's manifesto, where we're at 18 months later from the white paper. I dipped out for that. I went and watched the rest of the Bulls game.
Yeah, and I also couldn't make it to that because there was a Women in the Hobby event.
Yep, and so our night ended with 10 o'clock. We had an invite from David Marino to a collectible event in eBay at the Ling Ling upstairs of Hakkasan nightclub. Now I would tell you, this is how I'm old. It said be there at 10 o'clock. So me and Court got to there like 9:45. We posted up at a little adult beverage
gambling spot.
And we showed up at 10 o'clock, and I said hi, and security looked at me and didn't even acknowledge that I existed.
They didn't even look at you, sir.
And that's why I said didn't even acknowledge that I existed.
You said they looked at you. I felt like that was a generous...
No. And so I quite honestly thought, like, who is this? I am too old. I am not trying to get into a nightclub. I'm not trying to party with children. And so I'm like, to hell with this. I'm out of here. And so eventually we came back, got in, spent 3 hours, way past my bedtime, partying up in a hot nightclub.
Yeah, it was definitely a scene that I haven't been a part of since I was in my early 20s. So
at 1 o'clock when we left, there was the actual line for the nightclub where people were just getting their night started, and I'm like, I truly felt my age.
Yeah, because I'm like, do you want to go back and get in line and start all over?
Absolutely not.
No, 10 out of 10. But it was really nice. We spent the night, again, that was when we sat and we talked.
We're terrible. We said this was going to be a short video. We're already like a half an hour into this thing.
Yes. All right, so we're going to end it there because we got to head over to the show. We're going to do probably a couple in-depth videos about the Mint, about like really our experience and thoughts, especially more of a deep dive into the panels because I thought those were really interesting. But for now, I guess we'll let you know how the show goes.
Yeah.